on, everybody? Welcome back to Chuds BBQ. My name is Bradley Robinson, and today I'm going to show you how I cooked this delicious, tender, rendery, smoky, direct heaty pork steak goodness on this Mini ChudBox. Coming up. Ooh. Alright, if y'all have never had a pork steak before, basically what it is a thick steak cut from the Boston butt pork shoulder here. It's typically bone in, so we're going to bust out a bone saw in a little bit, and we're going to cook it over direct coals on this here Mini ChudBox. And if you want to see more about that, check out my previous video on the walkthrough of that. But for now, let's get this thing cut up. Alright, so this is a beautiful little pork butt. Typically I put these in the freezer for a little bit beforehand. I didn't do that, probably should have. But we got the bone right here, and we got this beautiful money muscle right on the back. So what we're going to do now is cut this up. I usually cut with the direction of this cut side of the bone. So we're going to go this way. So starting on this end, take a nice sharp knife, and you can really make these as thick as you want. Usually 1.5 inches, 2 inches is where I like to live. I'm just gonna nip off this end, which I'll probably just throw on as a little snap, but that'll give us a nice flat surface to start cutting steaks with. I wish I had a scimitar. I gotta get one of those. And there we go. Beautiful, nicely marbled pork steak. That's what you're looking for in a pork butt. Nice marbling, nice fat cap. I don't ever remove any of that. Usually works out great. Now we're probably gonna run into the bone here. So I'm gonna cut this last piece right in half. And I'll do as much cutting as I can, and when I hit the bone, oh my God, look at that, a third boneless pork steak. Oftentimes too, you can run into these in the grocery store already cut up, but they're usually not as thick as you'd like them. And it's a lot cheaper to just buy a Boston butt and cut it down yourself. So now on this end piece, I'm just gonna cut the end off just like the first steak. So now we've got the shoulder blade bone at the end here, so that's when it's time to bust out the power tools. So this is a saw that I got on Amazon for 30 or 40 bucks, something like that. It's just a little recip saw. Works great for cutting through bones. We use this to break down hogs and lambs and stuff at Leroy & Lewis, so I'll have a link in the description for this model. But now it's just time to get through that bone. Right through the bone, and we've got another beautiful bone-in pork steak. All by myself. Bone in pork steak number 1, 2, 3, and 4. These look fantastic. I think it's time to season them up. Alright, as per usual, I'm going with good old salt and pepper on these. I kind of treat these the same way with ribs. You can do some rubs and different flavors if you like, but something about keeping it classic with salt and pepper always seems to just work out great. Also, you can always change up the flavor profile later. I meant to say this in the rib video too, that you're gonna add sauce to it later, and for these we're gonna add a mop. And that's where you can really start adding in different complex flavors rather than the rub itself. What is barbecue sauce but not different spices and garlic and all that good stuff and sugars, so I find it's best to just start out with some really simple flavors. That way you get really good smoke to meat contact, and make sure you got the basic flavors down, and then you can riff on it later on in the cook. These are pretty thick pieces of meat, so you can go pretty heavy with the salt and pepper. But you also want to go heavy because we're going to be mopping this later on, and that's going to probably dissolve some of the salt off the surface. Make sure we get the sides. And make sure your camera falls directly into the meat. Gross. Man, that lens just went right into the pork steak. That's beautiful. Always season your meat, and always season your camera lenses as well. All right, these are looking real nice. Time to throw them on the pit. It's also a great way to save some money when you're smoking, because this is like $13 worth of meat, you know what I mean? All right, so this Mini ChudBox here is rocking a solid 3 hundo on both sides. It's burning really clean. I got the door all the way shut while these coals are getting caught. And this thing is ready to go for some pork steaks. Dun, 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 dun. All right, it's about 2 hours in. I just flipped these over, maybe an hour and a half in. We're still at the same temperature, which is crazy. I figured we would have had to add some more coals by now, but still going strong. And as you can see, it's much smokier now that some of the fats and juices are rendering out of the pork steaks. Said I just flipped these over not too long ago. These are getting some really nice color. Almost time to start mopping them. But for those of you keeping score at home, we're rocking around 160, 165, which is a wonderful time to start mopping once the bark is set and you're getting a really nice crust on these. It smells so good. Just a little bit of butter. All right, we've got about 2 sticks of butter, to which we're gonna add the juice of 1 lemon. Well, half a lemon anyway. Now I'm gonna add some barbecue sauce. Typically I make this myself, but in these trying times, we gotta support local. So I'm going with Salt Lick Original. So good for direct heat barbecue. Highly recommend it. Add a little more spice. We'll throw some chud rub in there. That'll do. And then grab your little Babish whisk here and get this going. Beer makes everything better. You can also throw an onion in there or whatever you want. Oh yeah. Oh, what a smell. Always heat your mop sauce too. That way you don't get gloopy sauces. All right, we're 3 hours in. We're still rocking a good 275 and yo. And I just flipped these over. I've mopped them maybe 2 or 3 times. I'll mop them, let it sit for a bit, then flip. That way the sauce can cook onto the meat. And we get this beautiful, nice red color. So we're gonna just keep going until they're nice and tender, but not too tender. And these things are looking so good. I flipped and mopped these about 5 or 6 times. We're getting that really nice deep color that sauce is starting to cook on. And these are cooking right along at a probably 185, 175 internal temp. So I'm gonna wrap these in foil to finish them off to make sure they're nice and tender. My butt does go on. Woo, those are hot. Ba-bam. One last little moppy mop before we wrap them up. Now wrapping your pork steaks is pretty optional. You don't have to do it, but make sure everything is nice and tender. It also helps with the resting process. So any juices that may come out will kind of stay in there and you're not gonna end up with anything that dries out too much. So those will be on there for another probably 20 or 30 minutes, not too much longer. They're pretty much there. Just gonna let them finish cooking, tenderize a little bit more, and then we'll rest them in the foil and then slice them up. All right, 4 hours later, these coals are pretty much dead. And these pork steaks are feeling nice and tender. Very nice, juicy, a little on the dark side, but that's okay. Ooh, yeah. Dripping with juice. That is some beautiful looking pork steak right there. Nice and tender. You can tell it's really nice and juicy. I probably could wiggle it apart if I had to. Nice and tender, but still firm enough to slice. That's kind of what we're looking for. Just like a brisket, honestly. Got a good smoke ring on there, nice fat rendering, nice and juicy. Really good color on the outside. That sauce cooked on real nice. Super tasty. Thinking that fat is just rendered so nicely. All right, guys, and that is it. Thank you so much for watching my version of pork steak. It's a super inexpensive cut to mess around with, and the recipe is completely variable to whatever flavor tastes you're looking for. And hit me up on Instagram if you want to get yourself a mini ChudBox at ChudsBBQ. Or, you know, if you don't have one, just whip up some cinder blocks and cook some pork steak because they're so damn tasty, and it's a really old school style of barbecue. But like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for the next one. Let me know what you want to see me cook next. And until then, please go cook something outside. Peace!